Different settings today. As you can see, this is not my usual studio, it's a garage. Yes, because today I want to talk about how you can achieve product photography with anything you have. But in particular, we're gonna talk about portable and affordable lights and what we can do with those lights. We have two lights by Photo-Olex called Tofu lights. Quite peculiar name, I know, but a lot of fun to play with. We're gonna build 3 different sets. We're gonna take some photos and I'm gonna tell you what settings and a few tips on how we achieved those specific shots. Remember, we're only gonna use 2 lights, so it's gonna be a challenge, but a lot of fun, very creative tutorial. So stay tuned, hit subscribe right now. I want to do something different today, and I'm gonna start by showing you the final result, the final photos, and we're gonna actually go through 3 different settings as I mentioned, and then we're gonna go into the tutorial on how we achieve that specific shot. And as we go along, we're also gonna share some features of these tiny and portable lights. As always, link in the description. This is the shot I'm gonna start with. This is the most complicated amongst the one we're gonna show you today, because we actually had to build a tiny set, which is right there. What do we want to achieve with this shot? This is a shot I'm going to use as a thumbnail for this specific video. So in this image, I want to feature one of the lights itself, so you guys on YouTube can actually see what we're talking about straight away. Product photography with portable lights. As I mentioned in the beginning of the video, anyone can achieve this sort of product photography with a few props and objects. This is all stuff I borrowed from my brother, so he owns this stuff and I'm actually in his garage. So you can do the same, go to a friend that owns a few of these things, or you might own already some of the stuff, and just play with things. Just get a room. Everything we're gonna use, it's very affordable, and the lights are affordable as well. The background over there, it's a gray bed sheet. Again, no money spent for that prop. You can use different colors, whatever you like, but it's really nice to create some texture in the background. As the base, we are using a drawer, which used to be a drawer in a typography, so it was full of old stamps, pretty cool stuff. We have a few objects from the 1900 more or less, back 100 years, a couple of lanterns to the left-hand side, 1 bottle of rum, which is actually a modern bottle. I don't want to promote alcohol, I'm not a drinker, it's just a cool product to take photos of. So that's why I chose that specific one. We have a glass as well with a bit of rum liquid inside, which is not actually rum, it's Coke. We have a fire extinguisher as well. We're also gonna use an incense to create some smoke. And we're gonna start actually by talking about my lighting setup. I've got 2 lights by Photo-Olex, the Tofu lights. One is my key light, which is right here on this tripod in white color, daylight, 5600 Kelvin degrees. The power of this key light is 100%. It's been placed in front of the table, in front of the objects, but to the side of the objects, probably 50 centimeters from my props. It's been tilting down at 45 degrees, so the objects are lit up from the side but also from the top. And here I placed a bit of foil paper, simply your kitchen foil paper, that can help me to reflect the light a bit more, so it gives more power to the light, but also it directs the light towards the object without spilling too much on the background. You can really shape the light as you want as well, so just play around with it, it's a lot of fun. The second light, which I want to feature in this image for this specific purpose, it's in an orange shade over there, and it's been placed next to the objects. The power of the light is 1%, and that's the great thing of these lights. They are RGB or daylight lights, which means they can reproduce the daylight, so from morning till afternoon when the sun is really strong, and it goes from a yellow to a really white temperature, but also it's an RGB light, so reproduces all the different shades and hues of the spectrum of the light. You can change the intensity and also the saturation of each specific hue. Also, the table and the objects are probably 1.5 meters from the background because I want to have some depth of field, some bokeh between the objects, the subjects and the background. And to achieve that bokeh, I'm also sharing the settings of my camera. And first of all, I'm using a Sony a7R III with the Canon 70-200mm lens at f2.8. That's as bright as I can go on that specific lens. And again, wider aperture, more light entering the sensor and shallower depth of field. So it's going to detach my subjects from the background, and it also helps me to get rid of some of the folds on the sheet in the background. For shutter speed, we are at 1/30th of a second. That's the minimum I can get. First of all, to match the light conditions, but also to frame the smoke. So we have an incense that creates some smoke. If the shutter speed was too low, lower than 1/30th, the smoke would be blurry. But with 1/30th, we can still frame the smoke properly. Aperture, I mentioned f2.8, and the ISO is 1600. It creates a bit of noise, but unfortunately, as these lights are not very powerful, we need to increase the ISO to match all our settings. All right, let's go to the next shot, which is this one right here. With this shot, I wanted to create something for my Instagram post. Well, not really for my Instagram post, but an hypothetical Instagram post. So let's say you are producing a drink. Okay, let's take a photo of that drink. Or if you're producing a bottle, a very nice bottle as the one we are using right now, well, that's a good way to feature that bottle on your Instagram feed. We're gonna play with long exposure, and that's great to do some light drawing with this light by Photo-Olex. We're also playing with the RGB mode of the lights, and we are gonna change the hues throughout the shoot just to give some different moods and vibes. The power of the light for this shot was 1% because otherwise it would be just too powerful. And because the light itself was a bit boring, so it was creating a square shaped light, we added a bit of foil in the middle of the light to kind of create two different lines of light. In terms of set, very easy, probably the easiest actually, because all you need to have is a bit of distance between your subject and the background. It can be done anywhere. Again, we are still in the same garage. My subject is the bottle over there. There's probably 3.5 meters between the bottle and the door of the garage, as you can see over there. And that creates enough depth to make the background completely black. You don't need anything else, just distance between the subject and the background. For this type of photos, you want to stay away with the light from the subject as well. We were a couple of meters away from the bottle because otherwise too much light goes on the table as well. Also, we're still using the Sony a7R III, of course, same lens as before, Canon 70-200. The millimeter is 100 right now. Composition is very simple, the bottle in the middle of the frame with a bit of air on top of the bottle. The lens from the bottle is probably another 3 meters away. And that helps again with the bokeh and in contrasting the background with the subject. Camera setting, let's check it out. As we need some long exposure, I set up the camera at 3.2 seconds in terms of shutter speed. We have the aperture at f7.1 and ISO 50, so the minimum I can get with my camera. What I did here was to set up a timer on my camera, 10 seconds timer, and when the camera shutter speed starts, basically, I start drawing literally with the light for 3.2 seconds. Simple as that. These are some of the photos. And that's how you do light drawing, light painting, call it whatever you like, with only one portable light. You can be creative, play with different lights, 2 lights at the same time, or you can use a key light and one for long exposure and light painting. whatever, be creative, feel free to explore and have fun, of course. Now we are on the last shot, and here I wanted to take some photos to show in my store. If you haven't seen my brand WeFew clothing, go and check it out on my website mamo.com. I just wanted to take some simple photo with a nice neat background just to showcase the actual product. So my snapback caps, the beanie hats, and so on. Literally, we're gonna take some details of the products, but also some wider shots to show the whole product. It's just a promotional photo to show what the product is about. Nice and clean. For these photos, we are using the CCT mode of the lights. Again, the daylight mode, basically. That goes from Kelvin degrees 2500 to 9900. We're gonna set the lights up to 5600 Kelvin. We're gonna use both the lights on two tripods, as you can see here, more or less at the same height, facing down in front of the product. Again, to the sides of the product, 45 degrees down. Power of the light, 100%. We're actually gonna replace the white background with some colorful backgrounds as well. Bear in mind, guys, these sheets are €2 each, so anything you can get from any shop around town. We set up the paper against the wall as well and on the table to create a nice and soft curve, just to avoid the shadows of the product against the background. But the product still is quite close to the background, it doesn't matter, because the lights in this case are powerful enough to overpower the shadows on the background. In terms of camera settings, I used either the 70-200 lens I showed you before, but also I switched to the 16-35 Sony G Master lens at f2.8, shooting more or less all the photos from f2.8 to f4. And other settings, I used a shutter speed at 120, 100 more or less, ISO 800, and that's all. Basically, that's all you want to know. Sometimes autofocus, sometimes manual focus, depending on the photo. And I also moved around. And that's all for this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed the video. I really enjoyed playing with the Photo Olex Tofu lights. Go and check them out on their website. Be creative and of course hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.